to the 200 and something InterCorner to Corner contest with me, Geoff. Unfrozen. I haven't really thought this through.
Go with it. We're still live.
You want a bit of or do you want a bit of
AWE, you knobhead.
His name is Paul.
Yes! Glitter guns, everything, snow spray, the works. Hello, darlings, I'm here. Yes, indeedy. Welcome to another Who Corner to Corner podcast, beaming live, or actually not so live, from somewhere in the universe, which technically is actually true.
It is technically true, yeah.
It is technically true, yeah.
We're not reaching 3 trillion people.
No, we're not. And sadly, you're not Rylan either. So,
no.
What do? You do things on a budget, on a shoestring. You get what you get, people.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
So,
anyway,
if you haven't guessed by that well thought out intro, we're here to talk about the Interstellar Song Contest.
Interstellar Song Contest. So I'm just trying to give it a little bit more kind of,
Yeah.
I'm told that's the sort of thing that sells,
Is it?
Woof, mate. Bit of woof, bit of welly, bit of chopper, you know what I mean? Bit of this, bit of that, bit of something else. Pile it all in, stack it high, sell it cheap. Nice one, geezer. Bob's your auntie's living lover. Know what I mean? Hey.
What the hell? Bosh.
Too much coffee today, mate. I'm sticking with the water. Don't hit me, I'm strawberry flavoured. Anyway, Doctor Who.
Moving on.
Yes, we have watched the Interstellar Song Contest, haven't we? And
Interstellar
let's discuss our thoughts and reactions and our kind of thoughts and reactions, basically, because that's all it is. That's all you get, you know what I mean? We've only got like 30 minutes because we've got to do other stuff as well.
Yeah,
so
we have tonight,
let's pack it in. Let's start with you, Mr. Geoff. What's your kind of overall summary of this before we dive into the detail?
Well, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched the episode, then I'm afraid prepare for spoilers.
Spoilers! We should do a spoiler alert on the screen.
We could do that if I remember.
Make sure you do that. As you say, then you won't do it. So make sure you do it. That kind of thing.
So the Doctor and Belinda turn up on Harmony Arena, and just at the start of the 803rd Interstellar Song Contest, which is fantastically hosted by de-cryogenically frozen Rylan, who's still alive in the future.
Cryogenically unfrozen, Rylan?
Yeah, de-cryogenically frozen, cryogenically unfrozen. Taken out of
science really isn't your thing, is it?
Taken out of the storage facility.
It's a thing that happens to somebody else.
The storage facility underneath Disneyland, where Walt's severed head is also kept.
Anyway, yes, that
urban legend. And then they're sort of getting into the Interstellar Song Contest, and then Kit, a Helion, a horned humanoid.
Horned humanoid.
Gate crashes the control room with the intention of getting revenge on the corporation, mysteriously known as, who bought his planet of Hela, was it? Is that how they pronounced it?
I think so.
Basically obliterated it for honey. Honey, well, it wasn't even honey, it was honey flavouring or something, wasn't it?
Something to make money from, basically, isn't it? It's just, something from which massive amounts of cash can be gained by strip mining the planet and owning its people.
People be damned. So he wants revenge, and his plan is to send a delta wave to all the people viewing the Interstellar Song Contest and wiping them out. So... And then
that was well summarised, that, mate.
Lots of stuff happens, and I managed to do that. And my son decided to join to watch tonight, which was very nice.
How old is he now?
He's 10, nearly
10.
11.
Wow, okay, so that's a good age to be watching Doctor Who.
Yeah, and he did quite like it, but I was pausing every couple of seconds to answer questions. And
I remember those days.
He's still a little bit confused about actors, and like when the doctor got they scanned him and he said he's got 2 hearts, and Ethan went, does he really have 2 hearts? I said, no buddy, he's an actor. And then when they stabbed the thing in his chest, he said, "Did that really hurt him?" I said, "No, he's acting." So
Bless him.
it's funny, you just sort of take it as a given. But like when I watched Avatar with him, he thought they were real. He had no concept that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So lovely, really. So yeah, that's kind of my potted summary of tonight's episode. Do you want to go first with your thoughts and reactions, or shall I?
I can go first with my general reaction, if you like,
Okay.
which is pretty much that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I thought it was both gloriously camp, which is brilliant and totally befitting the whole song contest kind of thing. But I thought counterpointing that was this really quite serious and quite intelligently well thought out sort of message underpinning it. The idea of creating monsters of a race of people. Just for propaganda's sake, just to help oil the corporate wheels, and the dangers of, because of the strength of all that propaganda, the dangers of the rest of us kind of believing it, going along with it, and dehumanizing people, for imagining that they actually are monsters, and the corporates and the power structures egging that on, fueling the flames, making the flames burn brighter and brighter, to the point where people quite often forget that right at the heart of that inferno are real people with real lives, families, good people, bad people, people just like everybody else, people basically, and yet they're targeted and labelled as monsters for whatever reason, whether they come from a planet, the colour of their skin, their gender, their sexual orientation, just for their beliefs, or just because of things that they say sometimes. So I thought that was great. I wasn't initially looking forward to this, when the whole series 2, season 2, whatever it is, lineup of stories was released, and there was a lot of buzz about this one being the Interstellar Song Contest. I wasn't looking for it. Oh no, goodness me, what have they done? Where are they going with this? But then, of course, it was revealed that this was the episode written by Juno Dawson, whom I'm a massive fan of. I think her Doctor Who books are just incredible. She's such a brilliant writer. And I'm so pleased to see her being thrown onto the global stage, as it were. Official Doctor Who as such. I mean, it's all official anyway, but now she's writing for the TV show. So it can't get any better than that. So I'm massively pleased. And true to form, I thought, it was a cracking good story. I was a little bit confused towards the end, but no doubt we can get to that. But on the whole, very big thumbs up, double thumbs up, very positive from me. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was another great episode for this series. When they announced this one, I sort of thought, sounds like it'll be, I was going to say a filler episode, but I don't know. That's not really the right term, because I don't think.
No, I hate that term, filler episode, because an episode is an episode, a story is a story.
Yeah, and
I know. When you got like big arcs and things, you have the big arc stories, and then you have stories in between, and those are the stories that are generally referred to as fillers. But they're stories in their own right.
Yeah,
I think.
I don't think it's applicable on a show like Doctor
it's definitely
Who,
not here at all.
Because certainly when you've only got 8 episodes, and it's very largely kind of episodic standalone on a bigger. American show, which is kind of where the term came from, like we used to get in the day, 22 episodes of Castle or Lost or whatever. You'd have a filler episode that, was maybe a cheaper one or whatever, and it wasn't kind of directly related to the main arc. But, these shows, a lot of shows, it's a story of the week, it's all that. And I think there's sometimes people, I've seen people online saying, oh, that was another filler episode of Doctor Who, and I kind of think, it's not like the arcs have ever been that, massive, other than Flux, You
but
can't
Flux
really...
is one whole story, isn't it?
It's
that's the difference. It's not, Flux isn't an arc. It's one story of several chapters.
But that's what
I
mean.
There's a difference. An arc is a thing that'll ebb and flow throughout a number of different stories. And some stories, it will be completely absent. Others, it will be up to 100%. And most of us, it will be somewhere in between.
But even then, the arcs on the show have never been kind of, massive episode fillers.
No, exactly. Yeah.
If you think
Agreed.
Bad Wolf is a substantial arc, I'm afraid I've got news for you.
Hold on, wait for it.
So, anyway, I was thinking, this
you
episode...
didn't say the graffiti word.
It's just graffiti.
It's just graffiti.
So I
We will
thought,
talk about the arc in this story, actually, because I've got something to say about that.
Okay. So I thought this episode was either just going to be a bit of fun, or I thought it would be perhaps a fugitive of the Jardoon type semi-distraction, where
Interesting.
it's sold as one thing and ends up doing something else, which it sort of kind of did a little bit.
I think I think there's something in that.
Yeah. But overall, I thought this was great. Juno Dawson, she did a great job with the Redacted podcast series, which had the 13th Doctor in it, and there was a nice little reference from Belinda about her being missing on Earth, and they'll make a podcast about that, because that's what Redacted was about. And she also wrote the Good Doctor novel,
Which I love. Yeah.
which was great.
Really
she's
enjoyed
obviously
that.
done many of her own books as well. So I think she did a great job on this, and it was a real good sort of mix of stuff here. Fun, silly, but then kind of exciting. And sort of dangerous. When the freaking Mavity bubble thing popped open or whatever
Didn't
it was.
like that, but hey,
and they all, drifted up into space and stuff. And they said in advance this was the most expensive episode of Who ever. And I thought
I can believe it.
Oh yeah, I thought the CG work and the sets and all that stuff was excellent. Tons of prosthetics.
Really
so
good.
I could really see, why that was the case. And then of course it sort of takes a bit of a darker turn a bit later, and the Doctor is.
Well, I mean, it's quite dark when everybody's getting blasted out into space.
Well,
we
yeah,
think they're all dying.
Yeah, and of course the Doctor,
which is pretty hard.
Planned, did something to kind of save them all in advance. But yeah, the Doctor ends up being, furious and becomes vengeful, and he's quite.
I wasn't so keen on that bit, to be fair, but
well, that's interesting because. The Belinda said, this isn't like him, and I did see a tweet earlier that said the Doctor was sort of out of character here, and I was thinking about it, and Ethan was watching it, and I said, oh look, the Doctor's gone too far, and I was trying to explain, that Kit was doing something bad, but the Doctor was, stopped it, but gone too far with his sort of punishment of him. He was a bit confused. Why the Doctor is supposed to be the goodie, the hero? Is he hurting this guy even though he's a baddie? So that was a slightly tricky one for him to end up sort of being the first major one he's watched in a long time.
Imagine. I mean, who do you think the Doctor is if this is your first episode watching it?
Yeah, because until that point, I thought. I mean, I didn't necessarily dislike all of that, but I thought Ncuti was excellent. And I liked.
He played it well, for sure.
He did, and when he thought Belinda was dead, he was fired up or iced up. He said he's put ice in my heart now, and he was great in it, and it went from sort of. Just sort of, it's quite nice to see the Doctor and a companion just sort of having fun, like they were at the beginning when they got there to the thing, and then get into stuff. So I thought he was excellent. But I was kind of thinking, watching this would be a bit like, if Ethan had ended up watching, say, Deep Breath or Into the Dalek first, and suddenly the hero leaves the companion behind, or is saying, you're wading through, the obliterated remains of your friend, or, Villa Diodati, where the Doctor gets, arsey with everyone, So that's the kind of thing that makes the character, three-dimensional. But,
Yes, it is, in a way, but I think it's quite often... I mean, this wasn't necessarily a trait of the Doctor in the old days.
No.
It was sort of hinted at, I guess. I mean, Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor was given to be a little bit dark, and I think the First Doctor was pretty much was quite vicious when he wanted to be. He was capable of murder. I think in his very first story is about to brain somebody with a big rock or something. And then the Seventh Doctor had a dark side, a more manipulative dark side, rather than a vengeful dark side. But we didn't really see that manifest itself to a huge extent until we got the 10th Doctor and the whole Time Lord Victorious thing. And it seems to be a consequence of the Doctor acting on their own, right? So when the Doctor is without companion, without somebody to hold them back, then, you know, it all kind of kicks off. And that ties in, I guess, with this story because he thinks Belinda is floating in space somewhere. Except, doesn't he say they're all alive and frozen because of a thing that he did? So if she is up there, he knows she's not dead. Well, that's where I start getting a little bit confused.
Yeah, I can't remember what order it all goes in, but yeah, he was hoping that, I suppose, and it was only when he thought about Rylan and the cryo stuff that he realised he could kind of get them saved.
Right.
You know,
I must admit, I was a little bit confused by the resolution.
I think he kind of preempted it. You know, with the submarity nonsense, and hope that they would be recoverable.
I wish to God they just drop it.
I know.
Drop it. It's ridiculous.
It is.
Please, for the love of God and all that is sacred, stop with the mavity.
It's not a hoot.
It's fucking stupid. Sorry, excuse my language.
It's not funny.
Fucking stupid.
So
it's not big. It's not clever.
Yeah, I do. I think the Doctor is, you know, is a heroic person and optimistic, hopeful. You know, and there is a tough side there that you know can come out. I don't feel that the Doctor is that way. You know, kind of overall, I didn't sort of like the. You know, the Moffat thing of the oncoming storm and all of this.
No, is that a Moffat thing or was it a Russell?
Or did it start with? But it was pushed a bit further. The Doctor was, you know, is he a bad person and trying to be good and you know and
the Titanic episode when he does that big speech walking out of the fire. I'm last of the Time Lords. I'm 11 billion years old. Blah 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 blah. I'm coming to get you, big boy. Something like that. I don't know. Basically, words to that effect.
But it makes me laugh when people are like, oh, 13th Doctor committed genocide at the end of Flux. Naughty, very bad.
She killed some spiders, basically.
Well, she killed spiders and then, you know, lured the Cybermen and the Daleks into a trap because otherwise they were going to destroy the universe. But it's all right for the 10th Doctor to burn spider babies. But, you know, that's his art.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's his character
arc. You know, I mean, this thing about the darker side of the Doctor, right?
Sounds like a Pink Floyd album.
This thing about the darker side of the Doctor, right? Because we know we've got Valeyard hovering somewhere, right? Who is the representation of the Doctor's evil persona and everything else. So we know the Doctor's capable of it. But I think the thing with this, you know, when you say it gives the character 3 dimensions, so we've had the Time Lord Victorious since when was it? 2008, 7, something like that. Yeah. It's almost 20 years old. So it's only a character development or a 3-dimensional thing if you do something with it, if it leads towards something, you know, if there's, I don't know, some kind of learning that's to be gained from it, if the character understands why and doesn't do it again, or, you know, moves in a different direction because of what they've found out about themselves, perhaps. Just one example of how that becomes character development or something. But if it's just repeated, just pulled out of the box and thrown into a story just for lols, then... You know, it doesn't do that. I mean, it doesn't really do much. And I get, you know, it maybe does give this story an added darkness and an added texture, but I think it's dark enough without that. To be fair, I think that in some ways maybe distracts. Possibly some would agree. I don't know. But I think if you took it out of this story, nothing would be lost from it, because I think there's enough there that we just don't need that bit at all. We don't need that extended torture, and you know that's not a very. I mean, the Doctor is generally compassionate or strives towards compassion, but, you know, it's a very simplistic thing. He's compassionate unless his companion's not there, in which case he turns into a vengeful, murdering bastard, you know, which is really, that's not 3-dimensional. That's actually the opposite of 3-dimensional. It's just, you know, they're either this or that. That's very binary, and binary is 2, so that's 2-dimensional. So, you know, it's a little bit basic, and I don't think the story needed. I don't know whether it's a Juno Dawson thing or a Russell T Davies thing. You know, they decided to have it between them or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
my opinion, and it's just my opinion.
Let's you know, the way this stuff works is the writers pitch an idea and the showrunner goes, "Yeah, great, let's do it." They don't then,
or the opposite in some ways. The showrunner has an idea and pitches it to a writer. I don't know.
Was it RTD? But someone's go, "Here's 3 things. Get them in a script." So, you know, all of the stuff in this will, of course, be looked over by Russell and blah, blah, blah. So, he would have said, this
true.
can happen, blah, blah, just thinking about the Time Lord Victorious books that they did. I mean, that whole multimedia flopperganza.
I just avoided that. Let the plague. For me,
the two main books where they sort of, it was set post Waters of Mars and before the end of time, and they tried to make Ten sort of an anti-hero in it, and he was a little bit a bit darker, so they came and went, and that was what happened.
And people remember them for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, for those of you who worked on it. I know if you're listening, apologies. I have no opinion because I didn't get involved with any of it. I just thought that's not for me. I must admit,
I probably said this before. The two primary books, All Flesh is Grass and something or other, great villain in it, the Korath. Good, it was good. But I don't think we needed, 8 audios with the 8th Doctor that leaded into it and all that, it
maybe.
just sort of didn't quite work for me. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
anyway, moving on. Yeah.
I thought this episode was great. Fantastic production values on it, great prosthetic work, all of that stuff, really good. What did you think of Susan?
That was a surprise for me. I didn't know she was going to be in it at all.
That was one thing I was spoiled on. I did.
Oh, was this the spoil thing?
Yeah, because I texted you and I stayed off Twitter
yet again.
All day.
This is the second week in a row where you've texted me saying blah blah blah, lots of swearing.
Yeah,
I've just been spoiled. I dipped into Twitter X.
I'd open it up so I could post. Please can we have your thoughts? And I saw that picture, and I was like, oh well, maybe that was some Tales of the TARDIS. And then I didn't know about the rest of the stuff with Mrs. Flood until the BBC press office email came in. So thanks for that.
No, mate. Oh dear.
Oh, what's this?
So
oh dear. But I mean, that was kind of...
When did that email come in then? Because it wouldn't have been in... Oh, but you didn't watch the episode till later on, did you?
No,
you put the kids to bed.
It came in... Their emails always come in at like 3 minutes to the hour, and it says embargoed until the hour. So you're like, oh right, okay, you got 3 minutes to get this news out.
So you can write your online piece before the episode goes out and time it so it's right there.
3 minutes, yeah. So yeah, bummer. I mean, that was quite good. It was really good seeing...
It was
Susan,
it was beautiful.
Back. Part of me was a bit like, oh, here we go. I've had a message to myself. It's a bit nonsense, but I did, really like seeing her, and I think we were teased a bit last series that maybe Susan Triad was going to be Susan. So I wonder if there'll be more payoff with that in these next 2 episodes.
I hope so. I'd love to see her back in a good way. What I liked about that little cameo flashbacky thing is that it was Carol Ann Ford as she is now.
Yeah.
Not like an image from how she was in the 60s, 70s or 80s or whatever. It's, that's her now. She'd have gone into a studio to record that.
Oh yeah, she was in the
TARDIS set, right?
Yeah, she was in the TARDIS, yeah.
To get her in, just to do a little quick piece like that, waste. So hopefully there is going to be something of it.
It's possible they only had Joe Martin back last week for like 6 seconds, but I sort of find that slightly hard to believe. But
it's kind of heading towards, don't you, when they get the Doctor's old companions, family, past selves, and what have you in.
What a Journey's End type thing.
It could just be that, yeah.
Oh,
I'm thinking more like a regeneration, or no, sorry, we don't get regeneration anymore. We get bi-regeneration.
Well, next time again, we try regeneration, and there'll still be a tenant in the mix.
I started off by saying I love this story, but all I'm doing is picking out the things I didn't like about it.
No, you're not really.
But they're all the things that are part of the series tapestry now, aren't they? Bi-regeneration.
Yeah.
Mavity. The Dark Time Lord Doctor, last of the Time Lords. Good name for a band. I did like that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah,
but it's a common. It seems really, really, really common in Russell T Davies's Doctor Who that we're going to throw this. They're just underpinning almost every episode.
Yeah, so I
find it really boring. What it does, it just limits it limits the potential for the story just to flower out and be its own thing. You know, fuck off with the Mavity thing. Forget about having a Doctor's dark side, unless you're going to show us something different from it, unless a character is going to move from that and learn something from it, and just, you know, stop with all the bloody tropes. Just give me something original.
And the thing is that, you know, I have seen people say about this online as well. You know, these are, you know, near 20-year-old, you know, things last of the time.
That's what I just said. Yeah, since whenever. Move on.
And then the timeless child happens, and it's actual events and developments for the Doctor and things that affect the Doctor, and people are still whining about it, you know. But then we get
but they've had 20 years to get used to the other stuff, so it's just part of what it is now. 20 years time from now, mate, people won't bat an eyelid about
no, probably not,
child.
because I imagine, you know, discovering in 2005 that he's the last of the Time Lords was a shocker to some people, you know. But it worked well, you know, for the reboot, as it were, you know. Excuse me.
Survivor guilt.
So yes, I liked seeing Susan, and I hope there's a bit more there. So, what's your thoughts about Mrs. Flood?
Right. Okay. So, you know, when the Master was revealed in Spyfall, and then before that in Utopia.
Yeah.
And it was a massive moment, right? Straight out of the blue, you know. So was it Mr. Saxon, the Prime Minister, turned out to be the Master, and Mrs. Saxon had been throughout the episode, throughout the series in a similar way, or Mrs. Flood has also been throughout 2 series now. But it was quite a moment. I remember that last 15 minutes of Utopia, essentially the only good bit in the entirety of that story. Yeah. Right? It was fantastic. So, oh my
Actually,
God, they brought the Master back.
Sorry, I need to.
Yeah. What?
Mr. Yana, you are not alone. What's with the acronyms and the anagrams?
Yeah. But this was the first time we'd seen that, pretty much, wasn't it?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So that kind of works, you know. Yeah. Repeat it 20 years later, whatever. Anyways, it was a big moment. Spyfall again, you know, in the plane. Oh, my blood chilled. I thought it was great.
I did not see that coming.
Brilliant reveals.
Yeah.
Mrs. Flood talks to the camera, dresses up like some of the Doctor's companions, also does a little bit of a Missy, Mary Poppins kind of thing. Sometimes talks like a god. She nurses Cherry Sunday on the bed during the Empire of Death, so we've got no idea. And I don't think they even knew who she was going to be until they decided, let's just make her the Rani. And then, right, it has nothing to do with this story, because Mrs. Flood's not even involved in it. She has no story other than the occasional witty, quotation fingers, remark to camera, right? But she's added on in a sort of mid-credit sequence. Oh, by the way, she's the Rani. What the seriously? What? I mean, is that it? Is that it? But I did laugh because for ages you've been going, oh, she's the Rani, as a kind of a joke, you know, sort of take the piss out of all the online rumours and chatter and stuff. Yeah, she's the Rani. Ha ha ha. You did giggle and laugh as if it was the most ridiculous thing ever. And I was complicit in that because I did giggle and laugh alongside you. She's the fucking Rani. She's the Rani.
Yeah. I mean,
where did that come from? Where did it come from?
It's because
literally a last-minute effort. Oh,
what causes a flood? Rain. What causes a flood?
What do you mean? What causes rain?
Rain.
So it's an anagram of rain.
Yeah.
Christ on a stick. I'm sorry. I know we're a positive podcast, and we try to be, but this is really pushing me to my limits. I'm not gonna lie.
I think that.
Oh dear God! I'm only laughing because I'm such a massive fan, you know, I'm still a fan of Doctor Who. I still love it.
Yeah, no, I really do. You really like last week's episode.
I'm just like banging my head against the wall at some of these choices that have been made.
I have seen a few
throw
people
it away mid-credits. It's got nothing to do with the Interstellar Song Contest story at all. It's literally bolted on at the end.
Yeah, I mean they must have known. You know,
I don't think they did, mate. I think they just made it up overnight.
That doesn't work in a production, you know. So they must have.
Is it just in the name? So you think it was always going to be? She was always going to be the Rani because flood, rain, Rani.
I don't know where I first saw that. Someone online, but you know, it seems very
plausible.
Or it was going to be.
Telling me intelligent people came up with this idea. They brainstormed at a meeting, like a whole bunch of people. Wrote stuff on flip charts, flip boards, and what have you. Said we've had Sontarans, we've had this. How can we make this character do something? be the Rani. You know, oh yeah, that's great. Let's do that. But then, what is there in any of the stories she's appeared in that in any way kind of hints towards her being the Rani?
Well,
nothing.
Yeah.
When has the Rani ever turned to camera, right, and gone, ha ha, see that box disappear? Where does that come from, right? What is that all about? Maybe we'll find out next week.
Well, all of that needs to be...
The cynic tells me no. The cynic tells me no.
You know, living next door to Ruby, living next door to Belinda, you ain't seen me, right? All of this, you know, talking directly to the audience, going, oh, you know, terror's coming, or, you know, whatever. And I kind of think after we had Susan Triad appearing, you know, on screens and blah 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 and different things, you know, we've now literally had the same sort of thing redone, and redone. I don't get why. So why was Mrs. Flood at the Song Contest? What's the thing with the Vindicator or whatever it's called?
She's been siphoning off its energy somehow. She's been tapping into it to do some nefarious scheme. So the Rani in old Doctor Who is like she's a genetic scientist. You know, she's biology, or you know, she messes with people's biologies and genetics and stuff like that, right? She changes you know, people from the inside out almost. She changed young Luke into a tree. You know, she brought dinosaurs back from whenever. She created a giant brain filled with all the learnings from all the Earth's most famous scientists over the ages, you know, stealing them, kidnapping them, stuff like that. And I don't know, I can't see any of that in this at all. I mean, both those stories have been totally bonkers, so fair enough. And of course she appeared in the EastEnders Dimensions in Time thing, which maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it gets back to. Actually, I never thought of that. Oh, God. You remember Dimensions in Time, right?
I've not watched
30th anniversary thing.
But you know what? Huh? It's I haven't watched it.
But hold on. But just saying. So when you're talking about, you know, so next week's episode is called The Reality War, right? And we've had a lot of.
It's Wish World next week.
Oh, is it Wish World? All right, yeah. Beg your pardon. Right. So we've had a lot of stuff in this series about breaking the fourth wall. And the Doctor jumping out of a TV to be in a real world with Doctor Who fans watching Doctor Who by the BBC on the TV. Right. So maybe the Rani's nefarious schemes, maybe as a consequence of the Albert Square EastEnders Doctor Who mashup that happened in 1993, I think it was. Maybe this is that kind of thing. Maybe it's Dimensions in Time spread across. Well, I don't know. I'm reaching now, people. But who knows? Anything can happen in this crazy world.
If they do that, it feels like a very obscure reference for anyone other than hardcore fans.
Do that.
And I also think, sorry to say, but Susan appearing, anyone who's kind of been newly watching the show is going to go, what the hell is that? Ethan said, who's that lady that keeps appearing?
Who's that lady?
I said, well, she was his granddaughter 60 years ago. 60 years ago, you know, he said, have you seen that episode? I said, yeah, not 60 years ago.
I'm not that old, son.
Not that old.
Dear. Actually, that's quite interesting. Shall I tell you what Freya made of it, actually, since we're talking about our,
yes,
our young ones watching this?
I just want to say, before you do that, and I forget, with Mrs. Flood, she comes out of the defreezer thing, and then has, you know, bioregenerates.
God,
so if she hadn't been at the Interstellar Song Contest and hadn't ended up being sucked into space, she then wouldn't have effectively biogenerated. So that whole thing, you know, when you kind of look at it, you're like, that doesn't really work.
It's ridiculous, you know? Right? Yeah. So everybody who was, all the other humanoids, aliens, whatever, everybody who was at that song contest, we're guessing, survived, right? They were brought through individual cryopods or the slightly bigger ones that they turned in, you know, the audience pods into. And they all survived okay. So by my understanding, having watched Doctor Who for the last 50 years or whatever, right, the Doctor regenerates when, you know, on death, right? Yeah. So the Doctor isn't strong enough to survive a process, or Time Lords or the Rani isn't strong enough to survive the process that everybody else in that arena probably survived.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it just seems to me like a real cheapening of the whole mythology and stuff, and it's not such a big deal, It's only Doctor Who fans who get kind of heated up about this kind of nonsense, because it is.
I'll tell you what else.
Nonsense at the end of the day.
There was also another spoiler in the email I received earlier.
Oh, what's that?
That's not been.
You need to come off that mailing list, mate.
No, because then we get good stuff.
No, because then we don't get freebies. Shh.
No, it's just press release stuff.
We've had stuff for a little while, Geoff. What's going on? Get on it, mate.
I don't know. Anyway, I also want to talk about Freddie Fox. What did Freya think?
Who's Freddie Fox?
The horn guy.
Oh, was he the horn? Oh, was he the horn guy?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't know these people.
No,
mate, she thought she loved it. She thought the story was really good. Actually, her summary is that it was so gay she loved it.
I did quite like confetti cannon to safety. That was good fun.
But that's about the only bit of science in there that actually works. So, because all you need is something that is going to give you thrust, and it'll propel you in the opposite direction to the thrust with the exact same, velocity as the other. So that works. Everything else now is complete bollocks, but that actually works.
It's Mafferty, isn't it? I thought Freddie Fox was really good in this, and I thought he was brilliant. Name drop that I filmed him a couple of years ago, and he did Hamlet for the theatre company that I work with quite a bit. And we filmed a little trailer in the church, and he was a very nice guy, and we had a bit of a laugh, and he was very nice, and I did email him about having a chat, but he was possibly under an NDA, so we couldn't make anything work out. But yeah, very nice guy. So I'd like to go over to some comments quickly. We also have a voice note to play. So Michael Moslin says, for an episode involving the campiness of Eurovision, it was a bit dark. Good to see Susan, but seemed to be a very random cameo. As for Rani, don't remember much of her in classics, so not much of a wow reveal. Not bad overall.
She was only in 2 stories.
Yeah. Dana Kay says, it was fantastic and a lot of fun. 10 out of 10. Tony Filer, hold on, he's some 2 tweets. Main story, epic. Campness plus ticking clock mystery. Plus work the problem doctoring. Yes, that was all very good.
Yes.
And combining the expertise of newfound friends. Brilliant. Yep, like that. Ice in the Doctor's hearts. Oh, hell yes, there's the grit of the oncoming storm. Post-credits reveal, feels like Flood has been built up and up, behaving like an almighty power, like you said, Paul. So the reveal feels weirdly deflating. Here for a new Rani all day long, but needs to connect into bigger threats in the 2-part finale to be justified. But yay for getting Carol Ann back on screen. And Space says, hold on, she just right. This one seems similar to Kablam for me. A big corporation hurts people, and from that they rebel and become terrorists. It's interesting, and it could just be my timeline, but 13 gets a lot of criticism for the way she handled Charlie in Kablam. But she pleaded with him and tried to reason with him, and he made his own decision to stay with the Kablam bots. However, 15 tortured this guy, not caring about his why after he already saved the day. Actually kept electrocuting him over and over, and I haven't seen anyone have an issue with that. When the Doctor kills 13 kills people, it's bad, isn't it? I like a Dark Doctor too, but it sounds like a lot happened to those people that pushed them to that point, and it's ignored by the Doctor in place of torture. No empathy, just torture. It was a fun episode.
Go on.
Hang on. It was a fun episode to watch, however, even if the messaging felt a bit muddled. I assume Susan stuff has a payoff coming because it's confusing, and it seems like the Rani is just this Doctor's master, so they don't have to use the master again. Did we really need a bi-regeneration?
No, we didn't.
So hold on one sec. Oh, what were you going to say?
It's quite a big thing, so...
Oh, okay. This has just come in. Marco, such a great episode. Awesome to see Susan and have the Rani back. Still don't like bio-regeneration. Nate says, another open brackets, close brackets, stellar episode. Very good, Nate.
Oh,
no
good.
spoilers
Like
for me,
that.
but the twists kept coming. Doctor pulling a Wally and me punching the air. Yeah, brilliant. Did you get that? It's what Wally does. He has a...
Oh. Who's Wally?
What? Wally, the robot?
Who's Wally?
You never seen Wally?
Oh, Wally. Yeah, God, that was
Wally.
years ago, mate. Oh,
Yeah,
crikey.
excellent reference.
When's the
Mate.
last time
I
you
like
watched
that.
it? Tuesday?
Not that long ago, actually.
No. Your
Gareth
kids are still
Bowley
young.
says, Wally's a great film. That was fun. More like this in
Yeah, it
future,
is.
please. Oscar Groucho. I'm just going to say Instagram.com/artfully Liam always does some fantastic artwork over there. An action thriller wrapped in the robes of a light relief episode. It succeeds because it pivots on the inherent absurdity and fun of the premise to generate the sort of visceral tension we associate with Bruce Willis blockbusters. Do you mean, Liam, that it's a bit like
Where are you going to go?
Warriors of the Deep? It's like Die Hard.
A bit like Die Hard. Is
Rarely,
it more like The Fifth Element, this one, I think?
yeah, probably actually. Rarely has the show painted such a broad universal canvas here with our cornucopia of species and aliens united in song. Remarkable and timely in a world beset more by division and disparity than ever. How reassuring to know that Doctor Who remains a focal light of community and joy. The third act reveal propels the narrative forward in a way that draws upon the propulsive nature of classics like Utopia, but returning to this era's preoccupation with family and identity. Disposable but absurdly fun. It will be interesting to see if the actors portraying that role use the template of the OG to draw upon, or if this is a radical new take. And then I'm just going to pop to Blue Sky. Patrick says, I wanted to love this episode because of Juno Dawson, but it didn't hit the mark for me. Some great moments like 15 abusing his power, Belinda taking charge, and the singing montage, but my least favourite episode so far. Dan Hollingsworth says, so many Easter eggs for the fans in that mad adventure. Love the meta commentary about how a certain type of Doctor Who fan will always post, is she the Rani? She's clearly the Rani every time we have a new female villain. And I'll also add to that, Dan, is it River? Is it Susan? Is it Rose? And then a few people talking about the Rani, which is great to see so much conversation. And then Supreme Human says Belinda's wanting to just go home and any angst with the Doc just vanished after episode 1. The Doctor torturing Kit was interesting. The threat was easily stopped with his sonic. Nice to see Susan. 2 series of Who is Mrs. Flood, and the reveal was just tacked on after the credits. Underwhelming.
Totally tacked on.
Chop Monkey says 4. The Russellist of Russell episodes, and it delivered. Camp Clever, Susan Twisty, coming soon, and it was perfection from start to end. Touch as a Time Lord victorious, this had everything and more. 10 glitter balls out of 10.
Nice one. Very good.
Marigold says, not as painful to watch as some, but kind of everything I hate about RTD. I'm actually floored that the Mrs. Flood reveal is what we've all been talking about as the most boring possible outcomes for months, and there are some people who are excited for it. Sigh.
That's the way it goes. Some people love those things, others don't.
Yeah.
So,
Baggy, okay, you asked. Loved it all until the big reveal. Flood. Reheated idea and was the most obvious in plain sight riddle solver of all. Not sure if I'm interested in the finale. On the bright side, give Juno Dawson, cast crew and Shooty their flowers. They were brilliant.
Yeah. Totally agree.
And Pam says, I hate it. It's basically high stakes kablam. And Sir PH, who is a new commenter for us,
Hey.
so hello to you.
Hello, sir.
Loved seeing Punjabi. I love her. The episode was really good overall. I just wish we'd seen the Doctor as mad at the corporation as he was at Kit. Is it Kit or Kid?
I thought it was Kid, wasn't it?
Oh, really? I heard it was Kit.
Goats, goat horns, Kid. I couldn't have said
possibly then, yeah. The message was there that the corporation is genocide and all, but there should be some consequences for them. Looking forward to the finale. So did anyone comment on Facebook as well? Let's just have a quick look, see. Move you quickly there. 5 notifications.
You're moving me around the screen.
Yeah, I get a little pop-up when I go out of the main Riverside tab.
You get picture-in-picture on this.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're just creating dead air now. So
there we go. Right.
can I say my thing? No, you got it.
Yep. Morgan says, I love this episode. The Hellions were great. Rylan was actually really good at acting. Yeah, that's true. I thought he was great in this, and I actually...
He didn't have much to do, to be fair, but he was good
No,
at
but
it.
he was good fun. I hope this gives him a bit of a
it was a nice
boost
touch
in
having
his
him
career.
and
Yeah.
Graham Norton in there, actually.
Yeah, that was fun, yeah. The reel that Mrs. Floodby have generated, I was shook. Such an amazing ep. The best in Shooty's era. We need Juno as the next showrunner. And Samantha Lee Shank says, the most disappointing thing is how powerful this could have been as it was an average ep. I'm livid at RTD for creating another Time Lord that likes calling themselves a Time Lady. This is not a thing in Classic. It was not a thing for 13. And in 2025, it shouldn't be a thing now. So,
not a fan there.
That is a fairly mixed response there.
It is.
Very leaning positive, but I'm also going to say, sorry, I'm going to drop something controversial. Taking Al's controversial comment of the week. This has been a pretty banging season, and some people think it's been the strongest since Series 4. I'm sorry, you obviously haven't watched Flux.
If they watched it and
as you
didn't
were,
really
Paul.
get it, perhaps.
Probably. It's a bit rushed. Genocide.
Anyway, can I say my piece?
Yeah, we got someone else to do in a minute.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do exactly. Yeah, but this is important, mate. And I think it probably goes towards some way of answering why this episode is so good and yet so bad. I mean, I think the bad stuff, sadly, is all the Russell T Davies tropes. I think, as people have pointed out, Time Lord Victorious and Mavity and blah blah blah. As I said earlier, so I'm not going to repeat that, but. The big key message for me in this story is, as I said earlier, about that whole dehumanization of a race of people, which sadly goes on right now in loads of different places around the world, and the people who run power structures, corporations, governments, whatever, they're complicit in this, and they buy our complicity alongside it. And the majority, I say it's a majority, I don't know the stats, but it seems that there's a majority of us all too willing to go along with that and believe the propaganda. We believe that these people are bad, they're evil, they're ruining our children. They're somehow inserting their agenda into our books and our films and our very culture and the very essence of our being. We should save ourselves from that. No, we shouldn't. That's what progress is. Progress is about learning to empathise with people, about understanding who they are, who they want to be, where they come from. It's about understanding that, people aren't made monsters, or they are made monsters. It's about understanding people as people rather than the monsters that the propaganda would tell us they really are, they really are. But all too many people just go along with it. And I think the opportunity here is for the Doctor to show us that. And he doesn't. Instead, he actually becomes, he becomes a monster himself, right? Yeah. By torturing the monster. So Kid is the monster. Now, so Kid has made this decision to be the monster that they all say we are. I think those are his lines in some way, right? I'm going to be that monster. Why not? You all think we're monsters? Well, I'll show you what that's really like then. I'm going to literally kill trillions of people because you've done that to us. Yeah. He's, in a way, he's fully justified to do that, but he can't do that because that makes him worse than the people who wrecked his planet. He has to be better than that. The Doctor could show him how he can be better than that. But what does the Doctor do? He tortures him. Yeah. And that is not what the Doctor should be. The Doctor should never be the instigator of that sort of message in a story about compassion, or in a story that needs to show us the value of compassion and empathy. Because we are surrounded, the whole idea of compassion and empathy right now in 2025 is like a dwindling circle, a dwindling bright circle on your TV screen when you switch it off. It is disappearing. And there are so many powerful people in the world who seem to want that to disappear, so that essentially we do what they tell us to do, so that we hate on a certain race of people because then, we'll feel we're alongside them, we're aligned with their values. I'm not aligned with their values, and I'm not going to say their names in here. We all know who they are, and we all know what they do and the horrors that they seem willing to perpetrate throughout the world. We should never, ever be complicit in that, and the Doctor is a better hero than that. And this was the opportunity to show us the Doctor being that hero. And it didn't quite land. And that's the biggest shame for me of this story. I thought everything else was brilliant, intelligent, and everything else. But that was a big misfire, in my opinion. And yeah, the Rani reveal, the bioregeneration, frankly, was just a load of bollocks on the end of it. It just, it doesn't deliver for that arc. Sorry, I had to say my piece there. You know,
Yeah, it's a very...
it's an important story, tackling head on a very important issue, and I love it for that. And well done, Juno, for giving us that. You know, because I'm sure that is purely Juno Dawson. I think all the other stuff, sadly, is probably Russell T Davies or the team. You know, saying this is what it's got to have in. We, you know, maybe it was Juno's decision to show the dark side of the Doctor, and you know, even so, it was still a misfire in my opinion. So that was criminal for me, frankly.
That was
I rest my
very
case.
Nuanced and deep reading of it, and
Thanks, mate.
I'd just like to add that the episode also had singing flower aliens.
It's Eurovision, isn't it? Because sorry, Interstellar. Because why not?
Yeah.
Dopty-dopty-doo.
Before we go, I've just remembered.
Yes.
I agree with what you said there. I think
We've got a voice note here
yes,
as well.
we have.
Actually.
Yeah,
Let's
can we
play that.
Play that quickly.
Yes. Should we do it now?
Yes, please.
So this is Scott, right?
Yeah, from Gallifrey Customs.
Hi, Scott.
Hello, this is Scott, aka Gallifrey Customs, and I absolutely love the Interstellar Song Contest. It was one of my top 3 of this season so far. I enjoyed seeing Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor have so much more rage and anger and show that side of him that we don't get to see that often, of him going too far. I found Verada was absolutely brilliant as Belinda.
She was. Yeah.
She was just fantastic. She's just got so much more depth than, and I do like Ruby, but I feel like Verada as an actress has more depth than Millie does. I liked the political undertone of the episode. I thought it really worked. It wasn't too much. It was like the perfect balance between good story and political meaning. And then obviously there's the 2 reveals, which were just mind-blowing. I think we haven't had a reveal like either of them since the Chibnall era. You know, Chibnall brought in so many amazing big surprises, but I just feel like it worked perfectly, especially the Susan appearance. It was just, I literally gasped, and found it absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
Well done.
Scott.
Thank you, Scott, for that. Yes, I would agree with some of that, but you know, we all have our opinions.
I always find it so interesting how people, you know, interpret things and how they relate to them. Very much looking forward to seeing Scott at Comic-Con next week as well.
Oh yes, yeah, we're going up there next weekend, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Saturday. Yeah, so it'll be good.
So we won't have an episode as such next week, will we?
No, we will. We probably won't. I'm not going to be able to. I don't know when I'll get back from Comic-Con.
I don't know when I'll get back either. I don't care about you. I'll plan for partying all night, mate. I'll tell you now. I'm going to get back on Monday morning.
Maybe next Sunday we will drop our Susan Twist episode.
We'll do something.
And then perhaps we'll do the finale and Wishward as a double bill
bank it.
Or something, yeah. But anyway, we should wrap this up now because we need to go and record something else.
Okay. Sorry, listeners, about that. Geoff needs to go and record something else.
Yes. So you'll see that soon.
Oh, my good Lord.
So take care. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you soon on InterCorner to Corner.
Corner to corner. I think there were about 4 corners earlier, wasn't it?
4.
It was corner to corner to corner to corner. That's our extended versions, obviously. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks,
Take care. Good night.
Bye.